Just a quick point of view ride up the driveway covered in snow. Gotta run over to my sister's real quick for something. She's just a few miles down the road, so figured I'd give y'all a perspective of a little bit of snow in central Kentucky out in the country. Sure is pretty. Tell y'all a funny story while I'm doing this about my dad. Good grief, this was more years ago than I'd care to admit. This was 16, 17 years ago. He bought a 7-8-year-old truck that was added to the family fleet. I used it quite a bit. He used it quite a bit because he just liked being in a truck. I used it to cut grass in the summertime. I paid him the insurance for it and paid the maintenance and repairs on it. Anyway, we were so one time he was in the truck. He had come down here. Out this way is where my grandparents used to live. All the snow, got 4 or 5 inches of snow, nothing crazy, had fallen, and he was driving out on these country roads. It was a full moon. He had gone into town. He was taking care of my grandmother. He had gone into town to get himself something at the store. I don't know what. Gets back out in the country a little bit. And when I say town, it is a one red light town. And has been as far back as I can remember, which I remember coming down here when I was 3 and 4 years old. So anyway, he gets out into the country, sees the snow. It's a full moon out. The moonlight's reflecting off the snow. So my dad turns the headlights off on the truck, puts it in 4 low, comes home in like 2nd or 3rd gear in this little truck. It was a 5-speed, and just crept on home by the moonlight, doing 5, maybe 10 miles an hour for about 3 miles. Well, from a little over 2 miles. Yeah, just drove all this at like 5 miles an hour in the snow with no headlights by moonlight. He sure was a character. I'll tell you another dad story. He was willed my grandparents' farmhouse when they passed away. And he'd stay down there several nights a week because the place was out in the boonies, and he didn't want vandals to go in and have a heyday just tearing the place up with it being unoccupied. So he was staying down there several nights a week, and he had kind of a routine, but he'd switch up a couple nights just to randomize it and make sure that people didn't get comfortable with a routine. Well, one of the things that he told me one time that he did, he and I, when I started drinking, we'd always give each other, our beverage recommendations. Now, neither one of us ever drank for the sake of partying or getting trashed. But one time he said, "Man, I tell you something I did several nights ago that was a lot of fun and just very relaxing and enjoyable." What's that? He had this reclining outdoor chair, and he set it out in the yard. Had nipped on a little bit of Crown Royal to get just enough of a buzz going on to enjoy himself, and laid back and just stared up at the stars on a clear night for a little over an hour. I tell you what, he sure was a character. You know, I wonder if that degree of relaxation comes with your kids being at the age that they can be out of the house, where they're paying their bills and doing stuff. Because the older I got, the more chill he seemed to be. I don't know. It just kind of funny to me. I'll tell you another dad story. When I was born, Mom had the better paying job, and so Dad was the one that took off work to take care of me when I was little. And when my sister came along, Mom did take her, maternity leave to recuperate, but he was a stay-at-home parent for a few years, and he also he was self-employed at a music store, so he could, he's the owner, he can take his kids in there. Well, anyway, I'm a little fella under 2 years old when this happened, because my sister hadn't been born yet. And I think like every kid does, they go through that phase where they can only be put to sleep at night by riding around in a car. I know my youngest went through that phase, and she would actually, I know you might say I'm crazy, she was not even 2 yet, she would request it. She'd mimic the noise that the old truck that I still drive around, my work truck, makes with its straight pipe exhaust. And I'd take her out in that for 20 minutes, get her back home, and tuck her in bed. Well, anyway, Dad had a big old 72, 73 Lincoln Continental Coupe, Mark IV, Mark V, I don't remember which. And he puts me in the back of this car, and it's late night. He's tired, he's frustrated as a parent because he can't get me to go to sleep, and he wants to go to sleep, and I'm not letting any of that happen. So he's just out driving, gets me settled down. He's getting him settled down to get me tucked in my crib. And he was driving on one of the bypass roads where we used to live. Just a big loop around town. And he said, I just knew I was going under the speed limit. But he's not keeping up with traffic. There's no one else out there. And he gets pulled over for suspected DUI, most likely because he's going so slow. Cop walks up to the window. Dad just says, Officer, I don't care what we have to do, but if you wake my son up, I lost my sister who was following me.